MRN Crew Call is brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Welcome to this edition of MRN Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Kyle Rickey, and today we introduce you to another one of the longtime members of the crew here at MRN, one of the longtime voices here on our race broadcasts and behind the scenes. Fred Armstrong, who has been a longtime employee of MRN and has filled about every role with the network, including on our very live broadcasts, in the corners, in the booth, on pit road, and now he is the introductory voice of our race broadcasts each and every week. He was also part of the start of the big screens, the vision screens that we see at the racetrack when we are there in attendance. So we're going to catch up with Fred, talk about his lengthy career here at MRN and what got him involved in motorsports. It's coming up next here on MRN Crew Call.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Welcome back to Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Kyle Rickey, joined now by one of the longtime voices here on our network, Fred Armstrong. And Fred, it's been quite a ride for you. Now, what, 32 years, I believe, you have been here at MRN?
33 years.
33 years.
So it really doesn't seem like that long ago.
Amazing how time flies when you're having fun. Let's start back before you got into MRN, though, because obviously you come from the Northwest, and I guess it all started for you, like many of us here at the network, at your local short track.
Yep. When I was a little kid, like all of us, I was out at the short track with my family. My dad had a small radio and TV repair business in town, Armstrong's Radio Electronics, and we sponsored Ernie Trujillo's number 72 Chevelle and burned the midnight oil. Of course, I was a little kid. I was up in the grandstands with my mom. We were mostly family in the grandstands, but Craig and Dad, worked the pits with Ernie and did a variety of things around the track. So Portland Speedway was my home track, and just like everybody else, that's what really gets you going in the sport is the love that you have being with your family and your friends at the racetrack. And that's what you hold in your heart through your career, because that's your motivator to return what you got when you were a little kid. That's really what motivated me, was give back what I got, the entertainment I got and the fun I had at the racetrack when I was a little kid with my family.
For me, it was, meshing broadcasting, or trying to figure out how to mesh my love of broadcasting and my love of short track racing.
Right.
And that came from my local short track. You were on the PA at Portland for quite some time, weren't you, before making the national step up to MRN?
Yeah, we actually, I guess the short story on that is that after that period of time when I was a little kid out at the racetrack, my father passed away in 1974. And that really kind of was pretty impactful to our family. I was 13 years old. And so at that point, I decided to do other things, out with the old, in with the new. So I being an entertainment kind of guy, I got off into theater in high school and joined a rock band and did a variety of things and got an agent, started doing voice work and that type of thing. 1985, my brother calls me up and he says, "Hey, I'm going up to SIR. There's a NASCAR Winston West series at the time race up there. And Dale Earnhardt's going to be up there. And I'm going to do the PA," says my brother. I'm going to do the pits, working with, the West Coast PA guy. And, maybe we get to meet Dale Earnhardt. So I was like, okay, sounds good. So I went up there with him to hold his clipboard and hang with him. Well, I'm not sure of this, but I think it was Gary Cressy who was supposed to come up. The late Gary Cressy was supposed to be the booth announcer and couldn't make it. So they came to Craig and said, "Could you go to the booth?" Well, he handed me the pit mic and said, "You're the pit guy." I was like, what? I have not paid attention to this sport in 10 years. So, okay. So, of course, being the entertainment type I was, it was like, this is a theater exercise. And I ran up and down pit road, and I have no idea what I said, who I talked to, what the heck happened all day. But for some reason I made it through, and of course Dale won. So my first post-race interview, not really understanding who I was standing next to, I interviewed Dale Earnhardt, and he was a true gentleman, and it was a wonderful experience, and that's what really got me back into it.
It doesn't get much bigger than that, and apparently it worked out well for you. What was the next move? You're in the Northwest, and then suddenly you're in Daytona auditioning with MRN.
The quick story there is that Craig and I then, after that race, we started working. There was a little local Rogers Cable System show out at Portland Speedway, and they needed a couple of anchors, and I was like, well, I can do pit road. I'm ready for this. Let's anchor some Rogers. So I hop on the air with Craig. Well, Dennis Huth, who, as you know, started the truck series and was the weekly series guy for the longest time with NASCAR, and Clapp, who was a West Coast VP, were the principals at Portland Speedway. And they liked what we were doing, and their PA announcer was a local PA announcer guy, and they were like, these guys, we brought in wireless mics and soundboards and stuff. We were serious. So they hired us. And in 1988, Dennis said, we're going down to Daytona. You're coming down to Daytona. Fred, I got you an audition. Fred and Craig, I got you an audition with a network. So we go down to 1988, February. Craig and I put our headsets on. We are shaking. We go up that turn 3 scaffold up there.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that is, the guy wires at the top crisscross and your antenna gets caught. We're like, oh my God. And of course, the late Harry Howard gears us up and it's like, don't break these damn things. We're just navigating our way up this 50-foot scaffold. Both of us auditioned. End of the day, we went to John McMullen's office and talked to him a little bit, and then kind of got the phone call from Dennis to say, well, it looks like Fred's going MRN, and Craig, you're going to be GM of Portland Speedway. Now, I got to say, my brother is one hell of an announcer, and we were an announce team together there for a long time. And I think that had already been slated for him. So it wasn't like I won and he didn't. It was just kind of confirming career paths. I guess if Craig maybe had just been like so blow away, everybody would have been knocked over dead. Maybe things would have changed for him. But he ended up going a great direction. Craig has been a real powerhouse in the industry. He's a true promoter, and a breed that is needed in our business badly. And he's retired from that now. If you followed his career at all, he's been at many tracks, NHRA, NASCAR, ASA. He's done the gambit and done a great job. But I was MRN bound. So John said, can you come do Riverside? And I said, yes.
Talking about John McMullen, who was in charge of the network at the time. What was that first broadcast like for you, suiting up for the first time, knowing that, well, this isn't on audition anymore. This is going to be on national radio and radio networks across the country.
Thank goodness I went to Riverside, where I'd gone as a child and watched my heroes race. And so I felt somewhat comfortable in that, I was at a track that I was familiar with. But oh wow. I mean, you remember yours, right?
I do.
Yeah. You suit up, you try to stay calm. You're one of the gang now, and I put my stuff on and went out there, and I stood on top of a 50-gallon oil drum. Wonderful, terrible position, just on the outside of that dusty back straightaway right before the dog leg. So there I was. And I have not heard that broadcast since I did that broadcast. And I would love to hear that broadcast, because that was another one of those, how did I make it through the day? I mean, my word bucket, it must have been empty. I must have been repeating myself a million times. It's just something that takes time to really develop, as you know. And so those first broadcasts, making them through, you make it through, and you're just like, what? How did that happen? But it was a very bittersweet day, because dozers were lined up along the back straightaway, and they were there to rip the track up. And right before the race started, a gentleman played taps, and it was like, oh man, come on now. I'm trying to keep it together here, for this broadcast. You're not helping at all. And it was quite an emotional moment, because that was a part of my childhood. and my father was there with me. So, it was quite a moment, and I'll never forget it. So for me, my start with this network was something I carried in my heart throughout my career and still do today.
And you were a turn announcer for us for a number of years, almost 2 decades, I think, or close to it.
White flag for Dale Earnhardt as he zips across the line, just 1 car length ahead with 3 cars chasing him off into turn 1.
The black and silver colors of the Goodwrench Chevrolet leading the way as he has all day, but Derek Cope works on him going back into turn 1 for the final time. Cope drifts up the banking. Here's Terry Labonte trying to get the inside line. Jeff Bodine is behind.
Labonte looking for help from Bill Elliott. They still run single file halfway down the back straightaway, half a lap to go. Still Earnhardt now stretching his lead by another car length over Cope. Labonte can't do anything with Cope either. Earnhardt's car blows up. Earnhardt blows a tire in turn number 3.
Derek Cope down to the inside. Terry Labonte second as Dale Earnhardt slides back into the 4th position. Off the corner, it's Derek Cope.
But here comes Terry Labonte. He looks to the inside. Derek Cope covers the spot. Earnhardt's not a factor here. Cope hold off the challenge of Labonte. Derek Cope wins the Daytona 500 in a remarkable upset here at the World Center of Racing.
You mentioned the oil drum that you stood on. What's some of the more unique positions that you've had to climb up and through to get a good visual of the racetrack over the years? There's some unique ones out there.
I think my favorites are Pocono before they put in the new wall, because my first Pocono race, you're hovering over that fence on the turn 3 scaffold. I know you've been there. And those pilings are sunk in to the dirt berm that's pushed up against what was boilerplate.
Yep.
And I think it was Wally Dallenbach on pretty early in the race spun and hit that sucker. It hit right at my feet. I mean, he just, bam, went into that boilerplate, bent the boilerplate. And I'm doing this. Me and Charlie Cressman, the late Charlie Cressman, are up there doing this for a few minutes or seconds anyway. It seemed like minutes. The scariest ever, and I don't know if you've been up it, but in the turn 3 scaffold at California.
Oh yeah.
You have to put the man vest on, the what do they call it? The DOT or whatever harness, and you have to hook up to the wire. And they had like 2 rails, and it's all open, and you're standing on those 2 rails. And you have to kind of lean forward, and there's an opening there. And I swear it's only probably 50 feet, but it looks like it's 300 feet straight down. And I'm not very claustrophobic, but that was one of those times when they put the harness on me, and I'm like, really? I get up there, and I'm glad I have the harness. Yes, I harnessed up, and you just had to be careful where you stepped all day, which is really kind of fun when you've got your binoculars and your clipboard, and you're watching a race and you're into it, and it's like, and don't move your feet, So it was one of those things. But I think the weirdest for me was David called me in 2016 and said, and this was literally like Friday, I think, you guys were short a guy to do the race at Road America. And
where we need like 15 turn announcers.
Oh, not been there before, and oh brother, so I'm absolutely, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been on for 17 years. Am I going to be able to do this? And but got on the airplane, yes sir, on my way, and got out to, I don't know if you went the turn at the dog leg, the very back part of the racetrack before. So I'm walking through the brambles that have been cut back.
The kink, I believe.
The kink.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm walking through the brambles, and it's one of those, it's a mile and a half from the drop-off point to get to where you are. And then I get up on that little wooden scaffold. Yeah. And it's like, okay, here's the deal. Now, we're going to have to hardwire because we can't reach you out here. So your headset is hardwired. So I had literally a cable in my head. Don't move your head. And then my radio was all day. Up, and they had that backup unit that they put up on the hill back there, but it was not reaching. So I'm like, okay, I haven't done this in 17 years. Oh, and by the way, it's raining. So I've got my rain gear on. I've got all that crap out there. We're racing in the rain no matter what. There's no relief here. So it's raining. I can't move my head. My binoculars are foggy. My radio's cutting out. And I was like, this is so cool. This is what doing MRN is all about. And if you can do this, dude, you know, and I did it. And my word bucket ran out. I think I said he swings it wide way too many times that day. But you know what? I made it through the day. And that's a really crazy turn to work. And I mean, we're right at your feet, man. Brother, they are hauling the mail through there and making that right-hand turn. And if anybody hits that barrier, you know,
they're under your feet.
They're under your feet. So it was just a thrill, and it was because that's probably one of the crappiest turns I've ever worked in terms of just getting there, hooking up, having a view and all that stuff. Kyle, don't we love that?
Yes, we do. And that's why we do this almost every weekend.
Crazy.
It is. It's a good time. Want to jump into another aspect of MRN that you were involved with for a number of years, and that is the start of the big boards at the racetrack and the vision screens. You know, years ago, longtime fans remember the message boards on the Winston trucks. That was turned into what is now the big vision screens, and you were part of Winston Cup Vision back when video boards kind of debuted at NASCAR tracks a couple of decades, 20 years ago almost.
Yeah. Never forget the meeting. David called me into his office, and I came down and said, "What's up?" And he said, "Well, I got off the phone with Paul Phipps, who was his boss at the time, who was working pretty much directly under Lisa and in charge of the fan experience at the tracks. We had all these rental screens and no content." Mm-hmm. So being the content people inside International Speedway Corporation, Paul said, "Well, let me give my group a call and let me see if we can help the tracks out." And David and I conferred for a little while, and I said, "You know what? I really did want to get off the road. I really did want to stop traveling. And this was my sacrifice, Kyle, because I knew what I was getting into." Mm-hmm. And I said, yes. I said, we'll put this program together. And I knew that I had committed to probably another 4 or 5 years of travel when really I moved to Daytona to get off the road. I mean, I was burnt out, and you know that side of it too, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And I had a family and a daughter, and was getting older, and it was time, you know. So I knew what I was committing to, and it was a sacrifice, but it was important. And my wife knew it was important. My daughter knew it was important. So we embarked on that. And we partnered with Winston. I'll never forget going up to what we called the Big A table room. Remember our Big A table room? Their Big A table room is bigger than our Big A table rooms. We sat down at the biggest round table I've ever sat at in Winston-Salem, and key people were there with Sports Marketing Enterprises and JKS Motorsports. Will was up there, and we all sat around, and we decided that we were going to build this vehicle together, and that Motor Racing Network was going to become the content partner. We were going to start making television, and off we went. And it's still going today.
It is indeed, and it has had obviously several names as sponsors had changed or have changed over the years, but those vision screens at the racetracks that you see in the grandstands, when you look at the video replays and watch all the pre-race activity, you were part of beginning that program all those years ago. Now let's fast forward to today. You're the voice of MRN. You're the first voice we hear when we come on the air.
The Motor Racing Network presents NASCAR Live Race Day from Bristol Motor Speedway. Brought to you by Toyota. For the latest Toyota racing information, visit toyotaracing.com.
How do you like that new role? It's been, a couple of years now, and you're kind of like that introductory voice on hundreds of radio stations across the country. When we sign on every weekend, and when we sign off, you're the final voice we hear too. The
good Lord has been very good to me, and I'm very I can't think of a better way to, hope not. I guess end is kind of a harsh word. To round off my career with this network to be able to do this. I'm in my little booth here in my house, and I've got a perfect little niche underneath the steps. When we moved into this house, we looked under the steps and saw this, no parallel walls, no walls facing the outside, no windows. Just, I mean, it's perfect underneath the steps. It's like the little Harry Potter niche. And we said that's a recording studio. So I am a very blessed man to be able to come in here every week and not travel anymore and be with my family and do the production work that we do here. I have another company, a tech company that I'm involved with. It's an audio tech company. And so I'm able to do my work here in my home with my lovely family, and I'm able to walk into this room and voice those opens and those closes for you guys, because let me tell you, no words for the pride that goes with voicing what you guys do, because I was there. I did that for 13 years. I know what you're doing, and I can tell you that when I step in this booth, I'm there with you, and it's an indescribable feeling to be still a part of this network and to be able to do it in this manner that I guess I would say this is kind of like my way. Mm-hmm. I'm a family guy. I enjoy being here, and I enjoy production work, and I just love what I do. And this is truly a blessing. And if it makes you feel good about your show, when it opens up and and you hear me, if you say to yourself, wow, here we go. Because let me tell you, when I was on the air, bum, 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 MRN Radio presents the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. When I heard that,
yep,
it was showtime.
Absolutely.
If I do that for you guys, I've done my job.
And you do every weekend for 33 years here at the Motor Racing Network. Fred, want to thank you for joining us here on this week's edition of Crew Call, and we will hear you on a broadcast soon.
Happy to be there. Kyle, thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you. Fred Armstrong, one of the voices, longtime voices here on the Motor Racing Network.
Citywide to countryside. Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTire.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
I want to thank Fred for joining us here on this edition of MRN Crew Call, one of the great guys behind the scenes here at the Motor Racing Network. Racing continues here throughout the month of July and into the summer, and hopefully some of these venues will be welcoming fans back to the racetrack. Until then, we want to see how you are spending your Saturday evenings and Sunday afternoons with us here at the Motor Racing Network. Find us on Twitter at MRN Radio. Use the hashtag NASCAR Tailgate. We want to see those food spreads and your collectibles and just how you are taking in NASCAR action when you can't be at the racetrack. And again, we hope to see you at the racetrack soon as the CDC guidelines continue to change. So at MRN Radio, hashtag NASCAR Tailgate. That will do it for this week's edition of MRN Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Again, a big thank you to Fred Armstrong for joining us. For our producer, Rich Colbreth, I'm Kyle Rickey. Talk to you again soon here on MRN.
MRN Crew Call was brought to you by Hercules Tires.